everyone has touched on cross-pollination of genres. We've talked about mixing noir with fantasy. Over the course of all of your journeys, you've incorporated these noir and mystery elements a lot of the time unconsciously and sometimes very purposefully. And I'm curious what you feel that your genre blending does for your work in particular. And then after that, we'll get into how that could reflect back on the real world. So Dan, we'll start with you on this aspect of genre blending.
With genre blending, one thing that I like to think of is it's like eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? Like you can eat a piece of bread and then have a spoonful of jelly and then a spoonful of peanut butter and say like, oh, it's all going to the same place. But that's not a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It is not the same experience. And so you have to, you got to do the work to get that stuff to blend together and to be the right blend and to be the right bread and the right kind of peanut butter, everything that you want to really sell it to the reader and to give them this incredible experience. To keep on that kind of culinary metaphor, like if you watch the Great British Bake Off, when the judges are talking about, oh, the flavors weren't quite right and they didn't pop, or this one overwhelmed that, it's taking these different elements of the genre and putting them into place so that the fantasy reader feels satisfied and the noir mystery reader feels satisfied, and that you're being true to both of them. And it's tough. It's really easy to write a fantasy with a little bit of mystery, or to write a mystery with a little bit of fantasy, and to get something that truly blends the two. It's not always easy and it's not always intuitive, but when it's hitting and it's firing, it's like going to a fireworks show and it's like pop, 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 and then the big finale, and all of those conventions and expectations for both types of readers snap into place. And that's really kind of magic.
Yeah, and I like that you use the Great British Bake Off as a metaphor, because readers are subjective, and like the judges of that show, they're also subjective, and for someone the mix might be perfect, but for another person it might just be a tiny bit off, and so for you, like, to your tastes with the fiction that you're writing, Dan, like where did it come in consciously that you feel like I have to add in a little bit more of this, or I have to pull back on that aspect?
Yeah, so that's where being very well read in your specific genre really comes in, right? Because you know what other people are doing, both in terms of the classics and your contemporaries. And that's why you sit down and you read somebody else's book and you're like, oh, I see how they did this, and I see how they did that. And so you're putting together these expectations. So, noir, there's certain expectations, or with a buddy cop story, there's certain expectations that the reader has. There's certain scenes and story beats that you have to hit, but you can't hit them in a predictable fashion. So you have to set them up, deliver them, but with a twist, something a little bit different. You have to deliver those flavors to the judges, but in a surprising way, in a blend of peanut butter and I don't know what else, raspberry or whatever it is, right? And when you do that, it's a delight and it's a treasure. And you're right. What works for me isn't necessarily what's going to work for everybody else, but that's what makes all of this fun. Is
exactly
somebody else can read my book and not like it, but as long as I'm being honest and sincere, that doesn't bother me, because I know that I'm putting my heart into it. And just because it's not right for somebody else, there's going to be another book that they love that doesn't click with me. And neither one of those opinions is more valid than the other.
Exactly. Dale, do you want to get in on this?
Yeah, I'm glad that Dan's using culinary metaphors, because I'm a big nerdy foodie, and so I like to use culinary metaphors a lot. It's exactly what he's talking about. It's the right elements brought into the right harmony in the context of the right vehicle. These flavors might be great if I made a baked dish of enchiladas out of them, but they wouldn't be so great if I tried to turn them into a soup.
Right.
Or something like that. It's It's just finding the way. And at the end of the day, the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that most of the stories I tell are just attempts for me to take all the things that I'm interested in and find a way to put them all together in one place. Like to have one sandbox with all the toys in it, and I can play with all those toys in that sandbox and none of them seem out of place or like they belong somewhere else. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just imagining Dale in a sandbox playing with his dump truck and and action figures. It's very good imagery in my head. And Patricia, what about you? If you want to speak a bit more on this notion of genre blending and what that can really do to enhance a story.
I love Dan's analogy with the flavors because it's very dangerous when you start crossing those genres because you have fantasy, mystery, noir, potentially romance, because some of your female readers are going to want that. Some are not going to want that. Some of the guys don't want that. And then you have to get pacing in there as well as the character development and the plot itself. And sometimes you just don't get the mixture correct. And that's when someone throws you a 1-star because they didn't like it. But someone else on the road loves the story because that twist you threw in there was this unexpected flavor and that they really, really enjoyed it. For myself, I'm a D&D player, so my pacing runs along that particular course. So if you're a gamer, you're going to love the pace of Forging a Nightmare because it doesn't spin its tires. There's no moss growing beneath the tires. We move. And I'm unapologetic for that. Some people are like, I couldn't catch my breath to the 30th chapter. Good. Bring your popcorn along and have a good time. But one of the things I enjoy doing is I'm a rules follower. So when something happens, you turn to a cop, you turn to the FBI, you turn to the CIA to protect you. What if those things can't protect you? If an asteroid's coming, those things are not going to protect you. If the second coming is coming, those things are not going to protect you. So you add that flavor to it as well, and you make people uncomfortable and you take them out of their boredom. You mentioned about people being comfortable, make them uncomfortable and take them out of their, and they're doing their thing and they're into your story.
And if they can't handle the pace, just roll a d20 and figure your shit out.
That's right.
Come on,
and
man.
Hope you don't get a critical failure.
Wait.
Exactly.
Here comes some rot trolls. What are you going to do about it?
Exactly.